Okay, hello everyone. I hope the sound is okay. And here I am. So I'm about to start my stream about the Samsung Cup, and it turns out, and so yes, um, if there's any problem with the sound, just tell me. So yeah, tell me if the sound is okay. Very good. It turns out they're playing. Looks like they're playing the whole tournament in 1 week. So they already played the best of 16. Looks like KJ was knocked out pretty quickly, which was a surprise. Yes. So now we're in the quarterfinal. So the best 8 players of the tournament. And for Japan, Yamashita Keigo is the remaining player. So that's sort of why I chose this game. But I do have the other 4 games are on this very same server. So at some point, I might be able to switch games. If it gets slow, I can switch games. So these games, all 4 of them, they started about 2 hours ago at 12 o'clock in Japanese time. So it was 2 hours ago, 2 hours and 15 minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes. Um, and I think the time control is 2 hours apiece. So on average, they've used about half their time. So the present situation, um, I did look at this move that Black has just played quickly with an AI, and it seems that the AI doesn't like this move. So this is the game is sort of in the balance here, and the AI wanted Black to crawl. So that's this variation, and it went something like this. And I think the attack on the upper right is supposed to be pretty important, where Black is going to be trying stuff like this. And so it's very subtle actually. It's not as if this is obvious to the players themselves. Crawling at 1 is kind of it's not a very intuitive move. It's sort of weird looking, and I'm not surprised that he didn't play that. Uh, so probably the upper right corner there, where Black can attack at 11, gets really complicated. But the idea is that Black's going to use this to probably reduce the whole side, which could be a problem for White. The idea basically is that this move is going to be really big, so it's important that Black is getting to that point. Okay, so back to the game. So the computer doesn't like this move. It's probably like it's um, in percentage points, it's something like change from 52% to something like 40 something percent. And it's like it's a 1 point. In Komi, it's a 1 point difference. So it doesn't matter really. It's not something that the players can notice or can necessarily take advantage of. Okay. Yeah. I'm not going to talk about the hopes of Japan in this tournament. Um, Satya Singh is asking why is scrolling better, and the reason I didn't say was because I did not completely understand that, but I think it was supposed to be more forceful so that Black could get to the upper right corner. But at this point, Black does have a chance, an opportunity to get to the upper right corner, and the game is probably very, very close. It's in the balance here. So I think um, I'd like to try to show you the opening moves here and try to catch up to the game. So I think it's worth doing that. So let's see this. So this is actually pretty common when Black has played a 3-4 point and White has played a 3-4 point in the upper left corner. Um, White is sort of thinking of doing openings, for instance, like the 3-4 points facing each other, or sometimes the 3-3 point here. And these actually seem to work fairly well for a lot of professional players. And there's a significant number of players who, with Black, will want to play the diagonal opening at this point, just to have that strong, that strong Kakari in the upper left corner. And of course, this stone could have been the fighting 3/4 points, which is this one, the fighting komoku, in which it's a bit more of an active fight on the left side of the board. So that's something that could be done. Quite a common opening, actually. So here. And here, yeah. So this is a point where white could have played the diagonal move. This would have been fairly solid, and probably when the lower left corner is a star point, probably black's going to play something in corner enclosure or something sort of Chinese opening-ish like this would also be potential in this opening. But when white plays the Kakari, this is actually one of the few cases where AI seem to be okay with white not playing the diagonal move and letting black press here, because I have researched this opening. So it's like this, and black will play the Kosumi. And like this is a pattern that the players obviously are very familiar with. They've seen it before. I've seen it before. It's pretty normal up to this point. And it's actually become a kind of a pattern where white does not play towards the side, but plays here, and black doesn't play towards the side either, but plays all the way to the approach move. And it's as if the order of moves is reversed, because white now pincers here. So white is happy with this fight also, but black did not want to take that side on a small scale. In old-fashioned games, we would be playing something more like this or like this for black usually. But people have stopped doing that. It's not getting good score with computers. And I suppose some people sort of understand that. I don't really, but this was always an option, playing all the way like this, and it just leads to a different type of game. So I would sort of say that's just a kind of your preferences. It's a style thing for me, but the computers do give points difference. So this is getting better points here. I think this is pretty much correct to the advised moves for the computers. There's still some creativity, yes. That's Satya Singh again, asking about the Shinfuseki, then coming to AI. And people are experimenting with the AI openings, but the AIs themselves are gradually getting stronger and stronger. And so maybe it'll catch on to the human opening type of opening in the future. Maybe they just don't fully understand, because computers are definitely not perfect. They're just stronger than humans, and we don't really know that it's the opening in which they're winning. They have better positional judgment throughout the game. Okay, so black plays an attachment and a double hane. And white does not want to let these black stones off easily. So white plays here, and this makes sense. It's the strongest attack against white. I mean, attack against black. Preventing black from getting two wides there locally. So it's this variation, and connecting now, there's really no point to it, because white will just connect too. And it's not really good, it's a bit uncomfortable. So black plays here, threatening the double Atari. White takes. This is has become almost a joseki. It was played before, and it's still played now. It's one of the joseki shapes that is liked by a lot of the AIs. And you can see top players playing it all the time. So this kind of thing. And because white had a kind of an extended shape there in the center, black did get to play the attachment here, create a cut there, which is going to be a problem later. Even when you're sort of under attack, as this black group is, it's a good thing to be able to leave some potential there, to be counterattacking later in the game. So that's what black is doing with this attachment. And then black plays here. So black's sort of testing white's response here. If white bumps against it from below, this is going to cut off the black group. Black would probably play here, I think. Playing here is what I would have expected. but this is not something I've really checked. And white can cut it off with this, but then black will probably play something towards the lower side. I'm not sure whether it's this one or maybe this one. And black will have no trouble making living shape. So it's just that black probably wanted to make some forcing moves towards the side. Satya Singh is asking about the playouts, how they seem to be played so perfectly, and they have a 0.5 difference throughout the game. And that's basically because AIs tend to go for a small lead instead of trying to play the more adventurous moves. So they tend to play moves that end up with close games. So there's a tendency for the game to end up being very close. And it's not necessarily that they're playing correct moves. It's because they're playing moves that lead to a close endgame, is the way I feel about it. That's why AIs can play handicap games against each other, and it becomes very close anyway. Even though there's this huge handicap, the player with the handicap, if it's an AI, it will not try to win by 30, 40 points. Instead, it will be happy to win by half a point, and it plays what we would call bad moves. So if it messes up towards the end of the game, then it's going to lose, even if it just loses 1 point towards the end of the game. So that's why AIs, although they're okay playing handicap games with white, they're not so good at playing handicap games with black, as a general rule. Okay, so with this sequence here, black has made some eyes for this group on the right. There's a potential connection underneath there at this point. The one problem with this server is that the coordinates are a bit strange, so I apologize for that. But it is convenient in that, it is convenient in that it has all the games on it, and I don't have to put in the moves. So that's why I'm using this server right now. So black has this connection underneath, or black can play here and has pretty good eye shape. It's not 100% maybe, but it's close enough. It's going to be difficult for white to kill this group, even with a code. So let's get back to the game. Yeah, I was just checking to see if I was catching up with the chat. So yeah, white plays the attachment in the double hane here too. Kind of a very basic common joseki here. And invades the left side. So at this point, white has a small territory, about 10 points in the lower right corner, and some potential territory on the upper side. Black has a territory on the right side, which is about 10 points, plus the potential corner, and some territory in the lower left corner. I'd say the territory is fairly balanced. Yeah. I didn't really count in the upper left corner for white in this case. So white does have some territory there. It's probably pretty balanced. And a lot depends on what happens in the center now. So that's probably a good reason for black starting the fight here. This is the fight that black was aiming at when he played that attachment. That is the stone right next to that. So black is actually hoping to attack white on the right. This is very much the Yamashita style. It's his type of game where he tries to dominate the game by attacking. At this point, the game seems to be going fairly well for black. And again, yeah, here he's taking away white's eye space and looking at the weakness in white's connection, and white defended that. So you can see how that white move that we just played, it's making the bamboo joint in preparation for black playing this attack. But he played it anyway because he's still looking to take away the eyes from that entire group. And then black takes the cutting stones. So this was a very thick move. It gives black a strong position in the center of the board. And white doesn't have any eyes. So it's reinforced black's group in the lower right, it was going to be okay, but black did need to worry about the eyes to a certain extent. So he's reinforced that. He's reinforced the center. All of his groups, all of black's groups are alive, except for that one in the upper left, which is undecided at this point. And white has this weak group on the right half of the board. White has some extra territory. There's this territory in the lower right, which is about the same as black's territory on the right side, and this little territory on the upper left, which is probably comparable to black's lower left corner. So the territory is close, and white has Komi. Black does have that little territory in the center. On the whole, I think it's looking okay for black. But of course, Katago was giving a very close game at this point. So white has some potential on the upper side too. Black jumped. I think this is where I started my commentary. Yeah. Thomas Leonard Su was commenting that some AIs can predict the score lead and can be tuned to try for max points. Yeah. Okay, so it jumped a little bit ahead there. So after white played the upper left corner, black played here, fixing his shape and threatening some kind of a cut in the center of the board, or threatening the whole white group, I suppose. So if white plays away, this is a big point in upper left, upper right, and black plays here. Usually white would be trying to get some kind of a squeeze, but there's a problem here with the cut. Let's see, which side would black cut here? The cut on this side is going to be troublesome for white. So white probably has to do something about this. Maybe a hanging connection here. Oh, sorry, it's white's turn. Yeah, maybe some kind of a hanging connection or a connection on this side. Either one works. White probably has to play something here. That's a good question from Derek Neal. I'm starting a new series. Some of my patrons. I should put the Patreon link. Come to think of that. Yeah, let's just give you the Patreon link. At Patreon, I do show some of my videos in advance. So there's this video about the Sanensei that came out early for the patrons, people who are supporting me on Patreon. So yes, I am thinking of playing that Sanensei opening in my own games. It's interesting that you can play any opening you want. There's some certain openings that did not get the best scores with computers, but we're finding out that we make worse mistakes later in the game. So whatever we do in the opening, it's for professional players, it's not a big deal. So that's the point of that video, and I'll be doing more. Oh, let's see. White did not answer there. So white pushed in the center here. That's a big move. There's a threat attached to that move, so that makes it big. But black has ignored it for the time being, and is going to try to attack white. Let's see how black continues the attack here. So this is a peep, and if white connects, now this would not be a very convincing attack because white's already alive. White has an eye on the side and an eye in the center. So I would expect that if black continues here, he's going to play this move and start taking away some of white's eye space. So that must be the plan here. Oh, we're talking about N4. Was that a question? Brandon Moore is asking a question about N4. N4 is actually a fairly strong attack that black can try. Let's use this diagram just to do it. If white plays here and here and here, then black does have this Tetsuji, which is one way black can start a fight in which he can. Let's see, he might even play here. This is going to be really, really complicated, so I'm going to leave it after a while. Some fight on the upper side, and you can see the whole white group on the right side of the board it's not alive. It doesn't have eyes, so there's some danger associated to to this variation for white. It looks a bit dangerous for white. So this would be a very convincing way for black to start attacking the upper side. And Brandon Moore was suggesting white plays a honey on the outside. Black will bump against here. And white has to defend towards the center because this would cut off the whole center group. So white would probably back off here. And black would get to push through here. So there's an attack there, which could be fairly strong for black with the attachment of 2. But he's not doing it. He's not focusing on that at this time of the game. He's probably going to continue. He's played the peep. It would make sense for him to continue in the lower left area. Okay. Chris Davis is asking about the Joseki in the lower right corner. I can go back and take another look at it. Okay, let's. Today there's actually 4 games going on. Let's just quickly sort of give you a glimpse of some of the other games. This is it's An. I can't pronounce his name. It's a Korean player who's An and Ren Xiao, the Chinese player. This is actually a good card too. And then there's Fan Tingyu from China and Shin Jin-so from Korea. So actually, this was probably the strongest match today. But I just wanted to show Yamashita's game today. He's the Japanese player. And this is Yang Yixing. I can't pronounce the Chinese name. And this is Kim Ji-hong from Korea. Is black. I mean, Kim is white, and Yang from China is he's black. So these are the 4 games that are going on today, and if it gets really, really slow, I might be sort of going over some of the other games just a little bit, but I would sort of like to focus on this one game, just so I don't completely lose myself. I think let's see. Which Japanese players were eliminated earlier? I don't think there were so many to start with. Wow, I'm drawing a blank. I think Kyokagen was one of the players who was playing in it. Okay, so black has sort of halted the attack for a moment here. But this white group, it's not alive. So we have to remember that it's not alive. And black has ideas of attacking it. Probably with a cut. So yeah, maybe white's just going to sacrifice some of this. Okay, now this is the Shannon Waters is asking about what server this is. This is in Japan it's called Yugen no Man. It's a Korean. I think it's the Korean called Cyberoro. Someone who's more knowledgeable about the English names of these might correct me, but my recollection is that this is called Cyberoro in the West, and it's a site that is sort of shared by Korea and the Chinese and Japanese associations. So it's a site where you can find a lot of professional games, and it's convenient for me to be showing them to you. And like I said, the coordinates that you see on the side of the board, they're just a little bit different from what you might be used to in Western servers. So that's the one drawback. Also, I don't get to write on the board like I do on OGS. But yeah. There were 4 Japanese players. Let's see. I think it was one of them was Kyokagen, and I'm not sure about the others. I wouldn't be surprised if Shibano and Iyama were a bit too busy, because I think they're in the middle of a match. see. Okay, Yamashita and there was Yamashiro Hiroshi, 9 dan, Japanese player, and Kyokagen. And let's see who else there was. There was Yamashita. That's 3 players from Japan. Maybe it's just the 3 of them. Yeah, so I quickly checked there. There were 3 Japanese players, and the other one was Yamashiro Hiroshi, a veteran player. But yeah. And in the best, actually, this is the best 8. Yes, so let's best 16, or is it the best 8? Okay. Maybe I've made a mistake on the thumbnail actually, because I think it's the final 8 games. It's 8 games that were being played yesterday and today. So maybe it's best 16, but never mind. Okay. Um, this all came, yeah, it's maybe the best of 16. So not quite as organized as I would hope to be. Yeah, it was divided into 2 days. Okay, so there's, oh yeah, the lower side. So black played here. This is reinforcing black's lower side, but as I was saying, it's not going to be a decisive attack against the white group because white can easily make 2 eyes. A lot of dead white on the right, unless he can connect downward. Okay, David Lloyd Jones said that. I think he's talking about the white group on the right half of the board. It's not alive locally. It's connected up to what I would call the upper side. Yeah. And yesterday, all Korean players won. Yes, I remember that part. There were 4 Korean players matched against 4 Chinese players, and all of the Korean players won. So we still have a lot of Chinese players, but about half of them disappeared yesterday. So for the time being, white does have to pay attention to this white group, which only has 1 eye on the side there, and can make another eye in the center. So that would be the obvious move. There's also a pretty important area on the left side of the board where white can play here, and this is going to be very annoying for black. Only I think it looks a bit dangerous when black does stuff like this. So this is the problem that white has to deal with. This looks just a bit too dangerous. So the obvious move would be to play here. But yeah, the obvious move would be, maybe it would be good enough. But players at the top of the world, they have to try to find something better sometimes. So let's see. Offhand, I could think maybe of a move like a kind of a probe-like move would be sort of interesting. But I don't really know if it would be good or bad. It's much more hard to evaluate. The obvious move, I don't really see anything wrong with it. But it's sort of passive. Apart from that, it's just a little passive. Both players are probably sort of eyeing the upper right area because it is an area where the players have to pay attention to that. Okay, that was an interesting comment by Morgan All. Morgan All? Can white sneak a Yosei move like L17? L17? Not anymore. Okay, does black have a way to cleanly capture the stone at d8? Now that's a question I understand more easily. If black plays a move there, black will probably capture it. So if we take it from this diagram, basically black does have a forcing move here. So this white stone is pretty much dead. If black adds a stone there, if black doesn't add that stone, it's definitely not dead. So there's it's going to be easy to kill it, but white does get the forcing endgame move here. Not so sure about whether black should play that or connect. It's probably about the same thing. And white will have Sente to add a stone to the upper side. And it's not all that big. The left side, like black got the territory there. It's going to be a close game. I think it's going to be a close game. Okay, back to the game. So black has played here, white's still thinking about it. There was a weakness here. Now let's see. There was a weakness here where white could have potentially cut black. And so maybe that's what black was dealing with here. So in this case, black has no problem. Black can just play stuff like this and is alive. So that could be what black was doing with the marked stone, the stone with a triangle on it. David Lloyd Jones is saying, can the AIs do what I just did? Think about potential forcing moves for an end game still 20 moves in the future. And the answer to that is they probably are. They play out the whole game some insane number of times. So basically that's what they're doing. The problem is they can't tell you what's going on. They can't give you a kind of an explanation of why they're doing what they're doing. That's the biggest weakness of computers as a study tool, is that they can't tell you what's going on in their head. It does feel like it's a close game. Black is pushing white around in the local fight here. But it looks like white's probably going to end up playing the first move towards the upper side, which is pretty important also. I think we have some time here. Let's allow me to take a quick look at Shin Jin-so's game, because after all, he is the strongest player in the world. So this is a game between Han Tingyu, the Chinese player, and Shin Jin-so, the Korean player, who is #1 in the world ranking. And so I haven't prepared names and pictures for them, so just ignore the upper right part of the screen where I still have Yamashita's name there and the two players for the main game today. But I would like to show you the opening here, just for some extra value. And so let's go through the moves. They're playing a very AI game here, starting with Han Tingyu diving into the 3-3 point. And here it's interesting, they're playing moves that could have been played hundreds of years ago. So this extension towards the side, this is one of the extensions that actually the AI likes. It's okay to play it when it's between these two shimaris, these two corner enclosures. And so white dives into the 3-3 point again. This pattern we see on the upper side it's something that happens pretty much. Black can play the double hane just because the value of the upper side is not so big when we have that position in the upper left already. Black has already reduced the upper side, so it's okay for black to give white a ponukide. That's the general idea. So that's why we see a lot of this. This could have been an old-fashioned game. Could have been played 100 years ago. Apart from those 3-3-point invasions. Like, if you look at the lower half of the board, it's pretty normal things they're doing. So White's trying to make use of that peep that was on the right side of the board, but it didn't really have a direct influence on what's happening on the lower side, but it is going to have some aji towards the right side. So Black managed to live here, and White is maintaining a kind of a line of stones towards the center of the board, so the left side it still has some potential to spread out into the center. And this move that looks so AI-like, I'm not sure that it is, but yeah. White is sort of building towards the center here and was looking at this invasion with that move too. So it's kind of a double-purpose move, which was getting rid of the cut on the fourth line here. So there was the ladder favors Black. So if White had completely played away, maybe he was afraid of a cut here with the ladder favoring Black. So that was what White was doing, probably doing with this move here. It's a ladder breaking move and threatening the right side. So it's preparing to do this invasion to the right. And White's still building towards the center. Black switched the left side. This actually looks okay for White. So this, again, this is Shinjin So has the white stones and Fan Tingyu has the black stones. White allowed Black to live in the corner, but you can see how it's sort of building into a squeezing of Black's group on the lower side. So it's kind of an attack there that's building up. And Black survives, of course. I'd feel happy enough with White. And now, yeah, but this is Fan Tingyu's style, you know. He's going to start this big fight in the center of the board. Yeah, it looks so bad for Black. And that said, this is the type of game that this player is really good at, Fan Tingyu. You can see how White filled a liberty there. That's because you would usually expect White to extend. This would be the normal shape. I sort of like the move that White played. This would still leave, in the future, it would leave the weakness of Black's jump here, which is a peep. So what White did with this stone is if Black plays an Atari, White can curl around here and it's a double threat. So this would be bad for Black. So Black cannot play the Atari there, and White gets to cut Black off without the weakness of the peep on the third line. So that was a neat move. And so White would have been playing this Atari at it's N4, N6, I mean, anyway. So it's better to have this hanging connection shape, which does not have this move coming as a forcing move. So that's the big difference there. And attention to detail is really important. And it looks like Black is saving that group here, but White got back some of the center. Oh, so it's turning into an endgame. Let's see. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a win for White. So that was the Shinjin So game against Fan Tingyu, and Shinjin So has White. And this is TLS, Thomas Leonard Su, saying that move 78. It must be, could be. Let's take a look at the numbers. Oh, move 7. What was 78? And that was the move where White played towards the center. So it was this move. We can go back to it. It was this move in the center of the board. That was 78. Looks good for White. Okay, back to the first game, the original game. So, they played a few moves. So White lived here, after all. So this is the move that I would have played in 2 or 3 seconds. They played it anyway. Maybe it was a bad move. It's the move I would have played. And so black has got the left side here. Um, the game has suddenly simplified a bit. Oh, yes. That's a good question, you know. Let's go back to that other game. Where are we? Where are we? Here we are. How do you find that kind of move? This kind of move is really difficult to choose. So it's a position where um, white probably knows that he wants to play somewhere in the center of the board. And what's important is that you don't want to be too greedy. I like it, sort of like a air reddening quality. Yes, that's Titus Gray. Is that how I pronounce the name? Just anywhere is not fine, but it's really difficult to choose the correct point. Basically, you one thing people say for either the invading side or the side that is trying to surround is that you imagine a kind of a line here between, in this case, I'll use numbers since I've numbered the stones here. The white stone that's number 8, and the white stone probably 42. So you sort of imagine a line between those two stones, and somewhere along that line is probably a good point. It would be a good point for black to invade. It's also a good point for white to surround. But what Shinjin So is probably doing when he makes this choice of his move is basically saying that he's playing a point that's gonna be big enough if he gets to surround the territory on that line. So he's actually probably making a calculation of the overall position, and he has decided that if he gets the territory on this line, it's going to be enough, because you have to assume that your opponent is going to contest that. So you want to have it close enough to your territory so that you can actually handle attacks like this, so that the attack doesn't work, or at least it's not very effective. So white is bearing in mind the fact that black is going to try something in the middle of the moyo, and it didn't really work very well, did it? And then black tries again, and so if white 78 has been fairly close to the center of the moyo, then when black does this at 91, frankly, it looks a bit unreasonable to me. It's going to be more of a squeeze for black when white does stuff like this. And you can see black didn't have the leisure to keep on running away. So like with this move, if black had run away, it would have been relatively safe. But what the players seem to be agreeing about in this position is that if white gets to surround the territory on this line, which is based on the stone 78. So along that line there, if white can surround the territory, then white's going to win the game. So that's the positional judgment is very important. It's what we do when we are, unlike computers, we can't actually read out the whole game. We can't play out the whole game in our minds. So this looks like it's going to be a win for white. I'm pretty sure it's going to be a win for white, but they still have a lot of endgame to play. And as you saw, I didn't really use a huge amount of time on my judgment, so I could be wrong. But that's what I'm going to be saying. So back to Yamashita's game. Interestingly, white played Hane here. I don't think that's going to work, but it's going to be interesting. So you might recall that I was suggesting that locally this was going to be good enough for white. He plays on the top. And if black takes it, this is the simple variation, but it's going to be, this is what white is asking for, because white gets to crow once, sort of annoying. So this is what black does if black thinks he's winning the game. And it's not as if it's going to be a huge disaster. It looks like black can handle it with this without too much trouble in surrounding the territory. But what black really wants to do is black wants to say, no, you can't do that, and play this way. In which case, it looks like black has no problem here with moves like this. It looks like black should be okay. And getting a race to capture against this black group in the center doesn't seem to be realistic. So I think black's perfectly okay here. I'm not quite sure what white is trying to do. Okay, so in any case, what the stuff that white is doing here on the left side of the board, um, unless it's some complete disaster for black, in most cases, um, it's not going to work for white, or maybe it's just going to be something minor, like Titus Gray was just suggesting some Aji for endgame, or a subtle endgame advantage maybe in some way, some kind of trade there. It's not going to be decisive on the left side, but I'm expecting that it's going to end with white having Sente. So the big question is how white is going to deal with the upper side. So it's sort of difficult to say exactly how white is going to surround that. So, okay, let's just say that it's like this and nothing bad happens to black. Oh, sorry. Let's just say it's like this and nothing bad happens. White does have this forcing move here. And we'll probably get, let's see, let's say it's like this, something like this. White probably gets an extra forcing move here. So let's say white gets to play these moves. You can see white did get some extra thickness there. And maybe white's just going to be doing stuff like this in an attempt to, this way, to surround that territory there. So this could be a kind of a fixing move for white's position in the center so that white can make moves like 20 to 24 work better. So it might be kind of preparation for surrounding the upper side. So this is the one way that white can finish the game. And this would move quickly into an endgame, basically. White would surround the upper side, black would start playing big moves towards the upper right corner, and the remaining big endgame would be towards the lower side of the board. So this is one idea that white might have. Apart from that, like I've been, oops, sorry about that. That was an accident. It's okay now, yeah. So apart from that, as I've been saying from before, it's also important to be able to slide here. So sliding here is also a pretty big move, which white could have played, but it doesn't have so much to do with, directly to do with stuff like this that white seems to be trying to play in the center. Yeah, something like this could be. And then if white plays here, in this case, there was not so much meaning to white playing that whole sequence on the left side. There's nothing special happening with it. So I sort of get that feeling that white is aiming at this, unless white can find something better on the left. Okay, and TLS is talking about sacrifice here. Actually, white did not sacrifice a lot in this sequence on the left. Just the fact that it was black's territory to start with. All of these moves are exchanges within black's territory. So white's not really lost anything. I guess the question is, can white sort of get some extra forcing moves here and actually make a cutting variation, which is probably a bit of an overplay. Just because the best white can get here is a Seki anyway. It's really, yeah, white did manage to enclose it actually. But in this variation, if black continues playing here, black's actually going to win the semi. So it didn't quite work as well as I wanted it to. And in actual play, black can play away at some point. So black might play here and then start playing stuff on the upper side, which is really big. I think actually the upper side is probably more important than, in this case, a Seki on the left side. That's the upper side is more important. So yeah, I don't think white has anything decisive here. So what time is it? Okay, I think they're about 3 hours into the game now, and they started with 2 hours apiece. So there is some potential that some of the players, just looking at this server itself, it looks like, um, oops, I shouldn't have done that. I'll leave it like it is. Yeah. Looks like Yamashita still has about an hour left, and his opponent Zhao is has only about 5 minutes left. So White could be in time pressure at this point. Um, let's see. Are they face to face? Um, I doubt it, but yes, I doubt it. I think that these games also are being played over the internet. They might actually be using this very server that I'm using here to show you the games. Um, it is originally it is a server that's controlled by Korea, so that would make sense with the fact that the sponsors are Korean also. Oh, that's a good question. Titus Gray is asking how much time in Byomi do they get? Um, I think it's probably 30 seconds. Um, but especially I think the Koreans, but Koreans and Chinese are doing some interesting stuff with. They're reducing the amount of seconds in some cases, so it could be 20 seconds. Um, International tournaments are still usually um, 30 seconds or a minute. I'm sort of guessing it's 30 seconds. Let's see if I can find out, do some research here. Um, on the Japanese Go Association's homepage, it says that this tournament is 5 sets of 60 seconds. So in the final 5 minutes, they have a minute per move, and that repeats. So if they play within a minute, they still have 5 minutes. So that's what the Nihon King says. It could be, and I think it's probably still correct. Derek Newell is asking, can White threaten with a cut at K8 and seal off um, the top more effectively? That's something worth thinking about. So I think what Derek is talking about, let's see if I can make a diagram here. So let's just assuming black finds a way to deal with this. And we're thinking of combining this with this and the cut here, I think. So white would be able to do that. For the time being, I'm not sure it's going to be that effective, but it is a threat. It is a threat that white could be aiming to do. Yeah, so this could be a problem. Maybe we'll see it happen in the game. Okay, so let's get back to the game situation. Is Black still thinking about it? Well, it does look like Yamashita has a lot of time, so he has plenty of time to think about it. Um, the obvious move is to cut. So yeah, sort of strange. Otherwise, Black could pull back, I guess, but cutting is the natural move. So yeah, I don't understand Yuk Baduk either. He could. I don't really see any local issues. I don't see. Black has various ways to deal with it. He might be trying to decide which way. He could be wondering whether he should pull back first or cut first. That is the choice between these two variations. They probably don't make much difference. So one would be cutting here and then pulling back. Um, the other would be pulling back without cutting yet. It's probably going to be the same kind of thing. Another variation in the way Black can handle this is I was showing this variation. It seems to be working for Black. Another way to fill white liberties while doing it would be to play here and underneath. This would make it more less attractive for white to play the wedge here, because that would put the white stones in an Atari. In general, it would be filling white's liberties more effectively. So this might be an idea here. This is kind of the Tetsuji move here. It looks like Black's still going to be okay on the side. He could be thinking about stuff like that, or he could be thinking about this move that Derek Mule was suggesting, the cut here, which is going to be a big fight on the upper side of the board. There's still a lot of space there for Black to try stuff, so it's not, maybe it's not decisive. Okay. Sort of stopped here. Let's take another look at some of the other games then. I have 4 games all set up here, so I can show you some other games. Here's the, let's see, this is from Korea, and then Nanshao from China. It looks like it's going to be a decisive fight on the lower side of the board. So it actually started with a pretty common opening here where, again, Black dives into the 3-3 point, White dives into the 3-3 point. They just love to do that. This Joseki in the upper left is also a very popular Joseki nowadays. And this Knight's move, sort of interesting. Looking sort of sideways at that cut on the left, but it's not a big threat. So White plays here. Now Black is trying to attack White on the left side. And White actually uses this cut. So this cut, it's going to prevent Black from pushing through at that's D5, the cut on the 5th line. So it's going to stop Black from doing that and make some extra forcing moves from the center of the board. So there is the local loss on the left side of the board, but since Black is really low in the lower left corner, it's probably okay. So in this game, Nanshou has the white stones. And so, yeah. So now Black is threatening to push through on the 5th line and cut White off. And White answered here. So now the fight spreads to the center. White's group in the corner there is not alive. It has 2 half-eyes. So it still has potential to be killed. It's really hard to tell in this game who is attacking whom. That white group on the upper side is not alive. Black group on the upper side is not alive either. Not yet. So everything is in danger. I think, but we can say that black is safe enough now that black has played this move. So that black group is alive. White's group is still not alive locally. It has some space out towards the center, so it probably can escape. With this sequence here, black is trying to curl around to get some influence towards the lower right area, and is hoping that this kick here, which connects black's stones in the center, is going to be pretty forcing against white's group on the upper side. So that's white answered that, and black gets to connect up. So that's how the double hane there looked like a dangerous move, but with the extra potential of an attack against white on the upper side, black managed to make things connect up. Okay, this is pretty straightforward. And this was probably forcing, I suppose. Yeah, black had to answer that. And so white plays the final big move. So white's group in the upper left corner, now it has an eye in the corner and a potential eye outside. So even if we assume at some point it gets cut off in the center, it's probably going to be okay. The group on the right is not really connected yet, but if in a pinch, white can play. So if black does, let's do a variation here. If black does this locally, it is cut off. Oh, no, it's not. Sorry, that was a hallucination. Okay, so it's connected. So it doesn't even have to make two eyes. So everything is safe now. Black is alive on the upper side in two places. Everything is alive. And white has this huge area on the lower side. I think if nothing happens, it's just going to be a win for white. And white in this game is Nensho. And oh, I can't pronounce his name. I don't know the Korean pronunciation. Japanese is a difficult character also. So yeah, I'll leave that. And you can see black is going to try something inside white's area here. And this is where they are. So it's a question of how white's played a very strong move on the lower side. But black does have all sorts of forcing moves. So for instance, am I going to do a for instance here? I'll try. Okay, so if white curls there, this would be the move that white would like to be able to play. And black can cut here and play a forcing move here. And this looks pretty troublesome for white. Black can curl here. So locally, black is escaping here. White can play here. Maybe white's going to get away with this. So white can play here and connect on the first line. So this is probably along the line of what the players are thinking about. If white plays on this side, it looks like black has some potential to squeeze in there somehow. Some moves like this. Maybe playing this one first. So this, to a certain extent, this is working. Black does have forcing moves like this and can push in for a bit. So this is probably working too well for black. It's probably very successful. Yeah, let's see. I think they might have played. So this is sort of what's going to happen. Only maybe white's going to take here. White's going to change it at some point. So white could play like this and allow black to escape while trying to make a large-scale attack. Or white could take here, which would change black's potential towards the center. Something like this. Okay, so that's where we are with this game. It looks like the fighting will continue on the lower side. I'd say, yeah, I'd sort of like to play with white. Black's territories are all fairly small, but it probably is going to be fairly close. Okay, this is okay. Let's get rid of all those numbers. It looks like it's good for... This is Shinjinso against Fantinyu again. Yeah, it's got to be a win for white. Shin Jin-soo is so strong. He's such a strong player. And this is Kim Ji-hong, and I think that's Wang Yixing. I might be I'm not sure about his Chinese pronunciation of his name. And Kim has white stones. And for a moment there, I was thinking this looks good for black, but actually, black doesn't have so much territory and is a bit thin towards the upper side of the board. So maybe it's still okay for white. It's probably undecided. I'm not going to make a big issue of this game. It's um, not one of the games I plan to focus on. So we could take a quick look at the moves. I think we have time to do that. This in corner enclosure from the start point it's not it's a modern move. It's I see a lot of it nowadays. And this whole sequence is something that they've researched, and I've seen a lot of this one too. Um, there are reasons for playing that probe towards the upper right corner, but it's fanatic sort of. It's a bit obscure for people to explain to people. It's not easy. So yeah, the wedge here is the move that white was aiming at, and white gets to play this sequence that is pretty forceful. Like when white wedges here, black doesn't really want to be playing from the corner. This is caving in just a little bit. It's something that white's going to be happy about. So black wants to cut on the outside. Locally, this variation is good for black, but it's working for white in this case because it balances well with white's position on the right side. So it's a version of this Joseki, which was not played for a while because black's territorial profit there in the upper right corner is pretty big. But it sort of works with the way white has played the right side. So that's sort of an explanation of why he was playing this move before he played the extension, because this extension is going to work fairly well with that variation after white wedges into the corner. So it's if black had played, for instance, I'm getting into shaky ground here. But if black had played this move, I think white had a different move that he was going to play. So I'll just leave it there. And I'm not going to show you a move because I'm probably not going to give you the same one that the computer would give. And the computers are probably right. They're as right as we know they can be. So that's the idea behind this move. Was white was going to play this. And this whole sequence here, which I have researched myself. I knew this one. So it's something that is probably pretty standard at the top levels. We all have the same programs. Yang Dingxing, thank you. So black is Yang Dingxing, white is Kim Ji-hoon. Ji-hoon? Oh, yeah. I'm not so good at Korean names either. This shoulder hit actually is a weird-looking move that works pretty well here. With black getting these forcing moves. So it's a way that black could play to make the shape there. So the old-fashioned way that I've seen in previous games is for black to play an extension here. And white will play something like this. You can see black still has some work to do to make this living shape. And so strangely, this shoulder hit is working really well here, where black sacrifices it and has a living shape already. So that's how that was working. And they got into this fight on the lower side. I see fights like this so often where white had the wool and black played a 3-space pincer. Okay, so looks like black is sort of sacrificing the whole group. But yeah, it's sort of ambiguous here, isn't it? Oh, he changed his mind. So there's this ko. Okay. Wow. But black is still not alive. That what's making this game difficult for black, is the fact that this group is not alive yet. Okay, so that worked fairly well. So black has this territory on the left side of the board, which is probably going to be something like 15 points. And black has a living shape in the lower right corner, so that adds up to about 20 points. Black has that good shape in the upper right corner, so somewhere in the vicinity of 40, 45 points. White has a pretty good position on the right side, maybe about 25 points. A good position in the lower left corner with some extra. White can play a hane at b15 to capture the whole corner there. So yeah, that's several points. And white has a upper left corner. So the territory for the time being is fairly close, but the big question is how white is going to continue. Okay. That looks like it's like he's really confident. It's a very tight move, just connecting his group up. And black is going to play something towards the center. So this is real time. It's the move they just played now. Black probably wants to add a stone to the center group, something like this or something like this. And maybe black's going to get the whole upper side, in which case white will be playing, for instance, if we get a variation like this, and let's see, can white cut here? Some kind of fight like this where white's going to try to go for a territorial ending. Okay, so this could be turning into a close game. Okay, this is the board position. Black played this is the vital point in the middle of 3 stones. Talking of proverbs, people were talking about proverbs here. This is the key point in the middle of 3 stones. It's what we mean when we say play in the middle of 3 stones. Okay, one more game. Oh, this is the original game. Have I lost a game? Looks like I've lost a game. Oh well. Okay, so this is the board position. Looks like Yamashita played super conservatively, capturing the 1 stone. So he was worried about those variations I was showing you. And white also played the safe move. And let's see. AI do have a bias for Sente, which actually makes sense. Like, getting Sente is pretty important. It's the tempo. It's good to have Sente so you can dominate the board as a whole. And in the opening of the game especially, AIs do tend to focus on getting Sente. Like, all of the Josekis that AlphaGo is playing seem to end with AlphaGo having the tempo, having Sente. Okay, so this is the board position. You might have noticed I sort of corrected that little the text there. So it's the best 16 for now. A cut with the large knights move that threatens the whole white group. So that would be black playing... So how is black going to do that is the question. Okay, so white played down. So if black plays here, for instance, and we say white has a forcing move here and here, it looks like white's going to be able to connect up. So in this case, if black plays here, and okay, this would cut actually. So black plays here, white's going to... white doesn't have much choice, does he? It is sort of annoying. And potentially black can get something. I guess white would just play like, this could be potentially dangerous though, couldn't it? There is something there. You do have to remember that black also has the problem of... this could be figuring into the thing here, where white has this counterattack. The machines get the Sente because they well, AlphaGo was just choosing Joseki that ended with Sente. It was really good at doing that. I don't even know what that word was supposed to be, actually. Okay, I'm turning off the heater. It's getting warm here. All right. I'm back to the game. Let's show you the game position. Okay. So what's happening here? So black played an attachment here. This is probably sort of trying to set up something like I was showing there, where black is potentially, obviously, if white plays a Hane on top, this would be dangerous. This kind of thing it's just too dangerous for white, whatever black does. Mm-hmm. Shifts rounds. Wow. Okay, so white had to be careful about. White did crow once. Black can cover here on the second line if black wants to defend that territory. It doesn't look like there's any serious problem with covering here. Black should be okay with this variation, I think. It could be a bit interesting. Not quite fast enough. So in this variation, black was okay. Now this one looks a bit more dangerous. Yeah, this one is dangerous. You do have to figure out what happens to white's group on the lower side, though. So there is something to think about here. That there is something to think about. Um, yeah, so computers, especially AlphaGo in the master version, where it was playing, where it played 60 games against the top human players, and all of those players were, I think they were all in the top 30 players in the world as far as the rankings are concerned. Um, it was playing fast paced, and it was giving local advantages to the opponent. Okay, it looks like black has played another move there and has ignored the left side. So this is the fighting is gonna continue this way. We're veering away from the endgame sequence, and white is sort of tempted to play another move on the left side of the board. And black would probably continue somehow on the upper side. This is really dangerous for white with that whole group not being alive. So might be wiser for white to try playing some moves towards this upper side. And again, white has to be careful of that weakness on the right. So something like this, it looks like it could be a dangerous variation for white. So black is counterattacking here. We were starting with a position that could have been a close game, but it looks like it's turning back into a fight. So white really doesn't have any eyes at all for that group on the right side, and it all depends on white's connection to the upper side there. Okay, it's exciting. White certainly chose a dangerous timing to be doing this, though, because that group on the right, it's not very much alive. For instance, like if white had really wanted to do this scrolling thing, um, maybe at this point, if white's really set on playing this move, white could have played it now, and then white's group in the center would have been relatively safe. So like we were seeing in previous variations, there is this thing here, which is okay. Let's just make so if stuff like this is happening, and black is getting some profit towards the side, there's always the issue of this move in the end. So stuff like this could happen. It's a potential problem. Even if we get into this variation where white hasn't given nothing up. Sorry. Like this. So white gets cut off, but plays here. It looks like a race to capture. White has at least 4 moves, 4 liberties. Maybe a 1 move difference. Good for white. So stuff like this could be part of the equation here. But once white played this move, this heats up the fight in the center. So it's really dangerous for white. Yeah, so this is the game variation white played there. I think it's a chance for black to try to do something fairly aggressive here. White does have a potential eye towards the corner, a potential eye in the center. So, for instance, sorry, this way. So white can play here and here. And in this variation, white already has an eye there in the center. So that's one thing that white is looking at. And here in the corner, it's going to be pretty difficult for black to take away this eye. So, yeah, basically it's like this. And if black pushes through here, black has to come back to this point. So white gets an eye there. If black plays here, now this is going to be potentially a ko, but it's going to be a ko that involves the life and death of the black group also. So it's going to be dangerous for black also. So this is some of the stuff that could happen in relation to white's eyes. Or black could try to stop that by playing moves like this. But there's the fact even white might feel a liberty here. So there's the fact that this rises. It's a bit annoying here when white extends down. So black might be able to win the semi here, but it's going to be a lot of potential forcing moves for white. So it's what we would call bad oddsy and a bit worrying for black, actually. Okay. Okay. So this move is actually threatening to cut white in a way. Which is maybe it's not probably not going to work without some more preparation. So what I'm talking about here is that if white plays away and black plays here, there is a potential cut there where this stone can connect up. But you see black gets cut off too. So it sort of depends on what happens to these 5 black stones. Maybe black's going to be okay. Something like this maybe. You might note that black has a forcing move here at any time. So black can do stuff like this, or maybe even do stuff like this. So maybe black can extend liberties. For the time being, white has about 5 liberties, which can extend to 7 liberties or 8 liberties. If white adds a stone here at some point, that's 8 liberties. So there's this race to capture. There's also the fact that if white plays here, black has to connect once before trying to cut. And this cut is a bit even more dangerous for black. So black probably needs some preparation before black can actually do this. So same thing with white playing here. Black needs to prepare before black can do anything inside. Let's make it again. This one. So this just, it doesn't work anymore. So black might capture, white's going to play here anyway. Okay, so yeah, this is more active than capturing, and white played down. White still is connected. White's still connected because if black plays here, and that's not working. This is not working either. So black's not going to do that yet. Okay, so what's the territory like? White did lose a lot of territory towards the upper side. Bodo's arrived. Good morning, yes. So it's good morning for people in Europe, I suppose. Yeah. The Chestnut Tree Cafe is asking, in pro games, what percentage of games end because a group collapses? And I've never researched that, but especially when I was a young player, there was a good portion of my games which ended with a group dying. I thought myself as being pretty good at killing groups. David Lloyd Jones is saying good night. Good night. Come back again. I should tell you, I'll probably be doing some more of these Samsung Cup games. I think they're playing again on Monday or something. Some games next week, so I might be doing some more lives. I would like to be able to catch these games and do some lives for everyone. So look for it in case you have time. It might be in the weekdays, so if people who have business to do might have trouble seeing it live, but yeah, that's the way the tournament's set up, so I can't help it. Okay, approaching midnight in Los Angeles. Good evening, Sigrid Sargon. Yeah, I realize that it's really late for a lot of people here. Satya, thank you. Thank you very much. Is white e10 dangerous for black? E10 is not so dangerous. The dangerous one is the immediate cut, but with all these stones that black has played in the center of the board, that cut has actually gone away. So what I was talking about here is the threat. Okay, let's get back to the game. And okay, this threat. Okay, it's black's turn. Sorry about that. Let's say black plays a move somewhere around here. Let's say black plays. What should black play? Let's say black plays here, and imagine that he's going to be okay in the center. It looks like he's going to be okay. So this variation here, where if black captures from this side, white can, and black is out of liberties. So black has to play from this side. With all these stones lined up in the center, though, black can capture with this stone. So that's not an issue yet. You do have to remember that white has some forcing moves in the vicinity. So you have to figure out what happens if white goes after this black group. And for the time being, it looks like it's okay with this kind of connection here. So maybe they're ready to go back to an endgame here. Black has erased most of the upper side. I think that was pretty big, actually. And white has erased the left side, which is pretty big too. It looks okay for black, but it's probably going to be an endgame. Yeah, it's going to be fairly close. Black still has some potential forcing moves against this white group, of course. Oh, thank you, Patrick. Yes, subscribe, becoming a patron in the Patreon system, which is, I think the link is still pinned to the top, I believe. That will help the channel keep on going, my channel. And in the $15 tier, you can get teaching games monthly, so it's really good. I do publish my schedule as much as possible on various platforms. So I tweet about it, and I do talk post about what I'm about to do on my YouTube channel also. Okay, Bodo is asking who is in the lead, and I'm going to say that I think black is winning, but it's probably pretty close. Thanks, Channel Waters. I should probably think about doing that. Yes, if I stream on Twitch. I didn't know that, but it sounds good. Out of Bounds, welcome to the channel. I do a lot of stuff on my channel, so if it's the first time you see me live, I do a lot of live streams also. So sign up to my channel and you will get notifications. As in this case, sometimes I don't know too far in advance, and so it's a bit abrupt sometimes. Sometimes it's a bit difficult keeping track of these international tournaments. So sometimes I just miss it until the last moment. Okay, before I was saying that Yamashita seems to have an hour and his opponent was on 5 minutes. Looking at it now, it looks like he has 24 minutes, 24 minutes. That's Yamashita. And Joe is on his last minute. So looks like both players are getting into pretty serious. Well, it's looking like Yamashita is going to be using up his time in the next few moves. He seems to be playing fairly slowly. There's the issue of how to finish this position on the upper side. The fact that white did not actually surround that territory is going to make the endgame plays a bit more difficult, actually. So there's the question of that. There's the fact that there's this huge move on the lower side, which I'm talking about probably here. But anywhere in this vicinity is going to be a big move. So there's this huge move here on the lower side, which the players want to get to as soon as possible. There's a big move here on the left side. And there's the fact that in some cases white can try to attack this black group. So black has to be aware of that. For the time being, it looks like it's okay whether white plays here, black plays here. There is some room for that black group to be connecting up to the center, to the right side. So it looks like it's going to be okay, but it is something that black has to be aware of. And that sort of that's going to have to do with the stuff that happens on the left side of the board. So there are a few. Once they finish those three areas, I should say. So the lower side of the board, the left side of the board, and it's relatively simple, I think, the upper side. And then there's the upper right corner. And after that, it's relatively small areas. Oh, Shinjin So has already won. Let's see if I can find that game. This was Shinjin So's game. It looks like Fan Tingyu tried to invade the center eventually, and we have this huge dead black group in the center of the board. So he was just behind in territory, and he decided to die spectacularly. Yeah, so this game, I think it was already looking good for White at the point White started surrounding the center. So that would be around here when White played this move, which people like so much. This move in the center here. Yes. This is already looking good for White. So my guess would be that maybe Black's invasion on the left side here was a bit premature, and Black sort of played something a bit higher up or closer to the center of the board. This whole sequence here, and White getting the tempo to play this move in the center. It looks like this is already looking good for White. Controls the center. It's going to be a territory. So that was Shinjin So. In any international tournament, or any tournament at all, you can be pretty sure that Shinjin So is going to be the favorite. So, so it's not all that surprising. This is the other game with Nanxiao. It looks like it's still really, really difficult. Oh, White saved the whole lower side territory. So let's take a look at those last few moves. I did show you a board position like this earlier. And so White did finish off those two stones. And Black is getting some area here. And they're in a fight there on the lower side. So, wow. With this move, it seems pretty obvious that White is aiming at the Q16 point. So ideally, White would like to be able to do something like this and get a living shape. So this would be close enough to living shape. Black would have to put a stone in here, and White would be able to live. So that's probably the general idea here. I'm not so sure it's going to work perfectly. It looks like it's going to be the final fight of this game. And I lost the other game, so it'll remain lost because if I go looking for it, it could be the whole live stream thing could get complicated. The final collapse. You want to see that? Okay, that's Rick Rubenstein asking for the final collapse. So at this point in the game, where Black did manage to survive here, and so Black wedged here to connect up that black group, just creating two cutting points for White, and White allowed it to escape, surrounding the center. So at this point, it looks like they're heading into an end game, which is going to be a win for White. So they continue playing a bit, and now Black is trying something here. And it looks pretty desperate. Yes, so this is a Tetsuji that Black was looking at throughout the game. He was looking at it from before. The idea with this move is that if White takes here and Black plays here, Black can cut off this group that White has on the lower side. So this was something that he was sort of aiming at. And without various circumstances, it's not going to work because white can play here and then capture the one stone, and he's squeezed. And yeah, it doesn't look like it's working. It just doesn't look like it's going to work. So it was a pretty hopeless fight there, and it's just dead. Doesn't look like black had any real chances in this final fight. So that was the collapse in Shin Jin-so's game, and Shin Jin-so won to go on to the best eight. So that's another Korean player. We have a lot of Korean. Oh, sorry. Okay. So let's get back to the Yamashita game. Looks like the Koreans are doing really well in this tournament. So here we're in the process of black forcing white to connect up there. And yes, that's a big move. That's a big move, but it's probably not forcing. So it'll be interesting to see how white plays now. Maybe it is forcing it. Let's see. Is white alive there? Maybe white needs to add a stone to have a living shape. Okay. In that case, it's really big and it's profitable. White would like to be able to play a Hane in the first line. But I do have the feeling that this is starting to look like a win for black. You can see how black's upper right corner is shaped into a very nice territory. The upper side, it's disappeared on a large scale. And white's only gain was on the left side. So white's gain is limited to the left side of the board. I think white should have prioritized the upper side more than he did in this game. He played the move that didn't work, the cutting move, but he played it in order to get this, just to create the sequence where he plays this capturing move as a forcing move. He was just doing that. Okay, so yeah, white does play this. This is threatening to make an eye in the corner. Sorry, that was not what I was trying to do. To make an eye here. So this, in most cases, this is going to make an eye in the corner because of the Tari there. So this would be a ko maybe, but the ko would be a desperate go for black. Black doesn't want to do that. Also, there's the fact that black has to worry about his own eyes also. So if black plays here, this is going to make it relatively easy for white to live there. So black is actually probably going to cave in just a little bit with this move, or maybe this move. So one of these two. Yes, black will block. But for the time being, black wants to protect the corner first. And the Chestnut Tree Cafe is asking about the time control. The players had 2 hours apiece. And apparently they had overtime segments of 60 seconds, 5 of them. So it's 5 sets of byoyomi. Same as the Japanese style byoyomi. So this is going to be a close game. I'm not going to be sure about it to the end of the game, probably. Unless someone messes up. That can always happen. Okay, so the time, now, It looks like Joe is in his final minute, but I'm not sure that the time shown on the server is completely correct. Looks like Yamashita has about 15 minutes left. So Black still has some time. Okay, so he's probably thinking about whether he probably wants to answer in the upper right corner. But there's a problem here. Let's see what, I'm not so sure about the life and death here, actually. So if black plays here, and let's say white plays away. Hmm. Well, it's a bit painful for white to play this move. So maybe that's the problem here. So this is a position where if white didn't have all those hanes, there would be various ways for black to kill it. But if black plays here and white plays here, this is actually alive. It's a seki. But it is a painful seki. So maybe this is what black is threatening. And this is what black would be threatening if he played one, that is. Um, hmm. This actually looks a bit more dangerous. There could be a ko in this one. Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay, I think I heard them play a move. Oh, so black covered. Now this is probably not going to be forcing. So white connects and black is probably going to play here or here. Now in this case, looks like white's alive. This would just be alive. Yeah, it's just alive. Even if white plays something like this, there's enough room. Yeah, so it looks like he's given up on the idea of trying to squeeze white there. Yeah. And yeah, I can't. There's this huge move towards the lower side, which is holding my attention here. Yang's game. Let's see if I still have it. Okay, I don't. So I can do that and do that, and I have it now. So let's go back to what I was looking at before. I was somewhere around here, and white connected up to the right side. He sort of needed that move, but it gave black the initiative here. Yeah. Yeah, so this all worked fairly well for black. Black's kept the upper side, so that's pretty sizable territory. It's something like 45 points, 50, 60, 70. This looks like it's good for black. I say this looks good for black. So that would be a Chinese player who looks like he might win his game. The Chinese players have been massacred fairly badly in this tournament. They lost all 4 games to Korea yesterday. Bodo, thank you very much. I do my best. Thank you for the generous donation. Oh yeah, so they're playing a ko there in the upper left corner. If white decides to back away from this ko, he can play something like this at some point, and we'll have a living shape there. But has to deal with the fact that he can be cut off in the center of the board. He's getting pushed around. Looks like this one is going to be a win for China. Let's go back. So this is Yamashita's game. Oh, black played away at that point. Yeah. So this is Nanshao's game. And everything depends on how white can save this group here or not. It looks like a huge life and death problem. I'm not so sure about this one. I would be worried if I had the white stones, actually. So this is up in there. And Yamashita's game. This is Yamashita's game. So I was sort of expecting him to get that upper right corner with Sente. But white has the cut there, which is a big move. So that's a point for white. It's better for white than I had expected. Yeah, that's painful. Like Odin Master is asking me in Japanese, isn't the cut in the upper right big? And I agree. It's big. It's really big. And it's probably Sente. Well, it's not Sente, but it's really big. It's painful. 右上の切り大きいですね. So yeah, we have a Japanese guest who had a good idea there. But of course, the lower side it's still continuing. So they're gonna continue. White's gonna play maybe a few moves here. On the lower side, the left side, upper right corner. Those are the big points that they have to play here. Somehow that attack that black did on the upper side, this whole thing here, with the cut here, it wasn't really working. It probably would have been better for black to simply, maybe, okay, with this move. From what happened, maybe it would have been okay for black to play away or simply play here. It looks like black should be able to get the corner with Sente. If black plays correctly. The whole sequence here didn't work as well as I had expected it to. Black didn't really get any extra mileage out of that when white could play here and it was forcing white's already alive at this point. So this was big. Black's probably going to play the Hane maybe. So black's taking the lower side territory. It's going to be really close. The Chestnut Creek Cafe is asking, are there any stylistic differences between Japanese, Chinese, and Korean players? And that was very true of them, say about 30 years ago, and up to that point. when they, for all purposes, they were sort of separated by the geographical distance between the countries. So they didn't have so many matches between the various players of the countries, and players tended to um, look at their top players for guidance. So there would be a top Chinese player like Niu Weiping or Ma Shouxun. Um, and to some degree, the younger players would imitate or learn from their style. So in some cases, they would play the opposite style. So in Korea, we had the example of Lee Chang-ho, who was playing in a Korean system which was sort of dominated by very strong fighting players. And what Lee Chang-ho did was he played the opposite style to that. So he was a player who had great calculating abilities. So he played a very calm game, and he was like a computer, a modern computer. He was like that in that he could calculate the score very quickly early in the game. And he's still a contemporary player. Still plays. I think he played in this tournament. But he was sort of the opposite of the leading players in Korea, like Cho Funyong, So Kungen, as we call him in Japan, and the other top players also. I'll get into trouble if I try to pronounce their names in Korean because I'll probably make mistakes. But they also had very strong fighting styles, and so Lee Chang-ho played a very different style from that. So that's one way you can react. But he was playing in a style that way so that he could beat them. He had, it was a strategy he had to beat the strong fighting players of his time, I think. So there's this whole style thing that was happening on the level of countries. And then once in a blue moon, they would be playing against players from other countries. So like Fujisawa Suko used to take a whole group of young players with him to play against the Chinese players and stuff like that. And it was not such a common thing. And then with the coming of the internet, I'd say about 20 years ago, 20 years, 25 years now maybe, 25 years. They started playing on the internet on what was called IGS, was one of the first internet servers. It's now sort of become what is called PandaNet here in Japan. So it still exists. And then now we have a lot of servers, of course. Now, so this cut is a huge move. And the following diagonal move, the next move for white in the upper right corner is still going to be big. So that was a huge move. And so the fact that white has that huge move is something that was not what I was calculating before. So it's a good sign for white that white gets to play that. Right, right. Exactly. Alex Weavers has the right idea. M18 was a huge move. And so black had to play that, even though he loses the upper right corner. And what is not exactly as I was hoping, my thinking was that black would be able to get a bit more towards the upper side before black played M18. And so black ran out of forcing moves and could not save the corner with Sente. So that's good news for white, actually. And it means that maybe it's not as good for black as I was thinking or hoping before. Okay. Well, I think they're getting. Actually, I would disagree with TLS, but because I think the young players, are becoming more similar because they all use computer programs to research their openings. So the openings are pretty similar, and they do go for the dangerous fighting options a lot. So if you look at the younger top Japanese players, not Yamashita, probably a lower generation like Ichiriki, all the younger players like Shibano, they do go for the more dangerous variations. and rely on their calculation. And all of the young players throughout the world are pretty similar in that. This whole sequence in the upper right corner is a bit painful for black. I have a bad feeling. I would have a bad feeling if I was playing for black, and I guess I'm sort of rooting for Yamashita here, because he is the last Japanese player in this tournament. Alfred Ham, good afternoon. It's afternoon for me anyway. I realize people. It's probably a pretty difficult time of day for most people overseas, but I can't help the fact that they're playing the game right now. Shannon Waters is asking how deep are pros going into their openings. They're changing everything. So a lot of things we took for granted before are they're not considered valid anymore. So the whole openings are changing. It's like another stage of the new openings, new Fuseki, machine Fuseki. And it's difficult for some players to make that sort of leap. So you see a difference in style is more distinct between older players and the new players. Right. Yeah, so it's a jump, a leap in different style. Okay, so that pretty much finishes White's forcing moves on the left side. White's probably going to stop here. White could jump in, but it's not necessarily too much profit. So White might actually crawl there instead. I'm talking about the right side, the upper right corner. So it's a good time for White to, maybe for White to return the lower side, the left side, they're both big. There's all these big moves all over the place. It's a very confusing endgame here. Okay. So crawling on the at M18. Oh, sorry, N18. That's a huge move too. So that's a big move. The protecting the left side is probably next big. So that would be. So I'm talking about this move for black. That's a big move. And this is a big move. And the rest of the board is not so big. Yeah, so those are two big moves that sort of jump to my eyes. C10. C10 would be a good move. White can play C10. And it looks like, yes. White, tactically, White could play this move. This move would, sorry. This move would be able to, it's a dangerous move. This is the more dangerous way to do it. And if black plays here, white could play here and connect up, but would not necessarily be gaining any territory. And white would have to calculate the possibility of black doing this, and whether or not white can kill that black group in the center of the board. So it's a dangerous move, and this is probably the more profitable move anyway, the way white should play. We can imagine black playing here, and black would be able to do that. So this is another possibility. It's probably going to end with Sente for white, because black's group there in the centers is in danger. Okay, where am I? Okay. Crawling on the lower side is such a big move. Before blocking, that works. I guess that works. That would be interesting. Hmm. Yeah, it looks like black would have to crawl here. Maybe white should have done that. That would have been a profitable exchange. The move white had to read was this one, but this is it looks like it's going to work for white. White wins by one move. So yeah, white could have done that. Probably something like this. But it would be more forceful. But he didn't do that. Maybe he's feeling a bit happier about the game than before. White did gain some points in the upper right corner. This is going to be a close one. Okay, so Rick Rubenstein is asking, is there any potential for black to cause trouble with the G5 wedge? So that's this move. It's not really going to work very well. With the cut here, white has various ways to connect up to white's group on the lower side of the board. So, for instance, white could just chase it, I guess, and jump. So this would be one way white could escape. Probably not very profitable for black. Well, Alfred Ham is asking who I think will win the tournament. And you think Kim Ji-seok. Okay. He's winning so far. But I feel that Shin Jin-so is probably the strongest possibility. He is the number one player in the world ranking. Okay, let's take a quick look at let's see. Let's find the real. Yeah. So this is oh no, it's not. Okay, this is Yan Xiao's game, and it looks like he's managed to live. So it's going to be an end game here. Hmm. So yeah, so this group on the right side, it's in the process of making two eyes. So if white leaves it, it might be a bit dangerous. But if white puts a stone in here somewhere, obviously alive. So white has 3 or 4 points there. Close to 40 points on the lower side. Probably about 10 points in the upper right. And a few points in the upper left. So that's, I say close to 40 points here. Yeah. So 50, 55 to or more. Yeah, it looks like a win for white. So this is Densho. I think Densho is going to win this game. Okay, so that's how he lived. I think it's alive. Like if black plays here, uh, for instance, white can play here, and it looks alive. Yeah. So that's okay. Okay, interesting questions. Yes, on Oni Byakuran, I do continue to participate in tournaments. Yes. And Thumper is asking, how did that happen? Um, yeah, well, yeah. You know, to a certain extent, I agree with that. But the issue was, let's just go back to see how it actually happened. The issue was that black's group on the side is not so strong either. Um, so white played here, covered here, threatening to cut on the third line, and played here. Now white has an eye there, and is threatening to live with a Hane at R15. And now white is threatening that black group. So basically the fact that in some cases, for instance, if black plays something like this, white will have this attack against black on this side. And the fact that black's group on the right side of the board is not alive yet, this is basically the issue that black has that is making it difficult for black to kill this white group. And so at this point, I think black just left it and started playing endgame moves and ran out of a good attack here. So it's given up the idea of attacking, and it's going to be relatively easy for white to make two eyes. So white is just trying to play a kind of a forceful sequence here while making two eyes for the group on the right. And I think this is going to be a win for white. So that's another win for China, maybe. Let's see. This one is going to be endgame. I think it's going to be maybe a win for China also. So that's my expectation for this game. It is getting a bit complicated. We have to worry about black's eyes maybe, but it looks like it's going to survive. Yeah. So I think this is going to be 2 wins for China. And this game, Yamashita's game, is maybe the game. Oh, where did I put it? Oh, here. Oh, no. Yamashita's game. Here we are. This is the one that is sort of hanging in the balance, I think. So let's go back a few moves. So maybe I picked the right game here. Okay, so like this. And now, white is threatening black on the lower side. So if black plays away, white can force with this move, and white can cut with this move. So this cuts off the black group on the right. So that's what white is threatening to do with that marked stone on the first line there. It's also probably, to a certain degree, there's going to be some forcing moves. But the black group on the right side there is not going to be squeezed too seriously. So I expect black's probably going to put a stone in somewhere. Yeah. So that's connected now. And if we look at the right side, like it looks something like this. And black has enough room for two eyes, basically. It's just too wide open for white to try. It's too much space for white to try stuff like this. White cannot even make a seki out of it. It's going to be, black's going to capture those stones to have a living shape. So it's not as if white can kill that black group. White can play all the forcing moves there. Play a Hanesugi on the first line. That's about it. So finally, we're ending the game. We're about to finish the big moves. There's that move on the left there. This one, which is pretty big now. It's getting to be pretty big. If white can make it work, white would like be able to play these forcing moves first, and then maybe here. Okay, back to the game. Okay, white did play the honey here. So this is going to be... It's going to be forcing. So white's going to play this forcing move and is going to move to the left side of the board. Liang has been really strong for a long time. Like I remember him um, from the time that AlphaGo played um, from the time that AlphaGo played against AlphaGo played against KJ, and he was doing some commentary in Chinese, and I was impressed. Yes, I agree with Alfred Ham that yes, Japanese players are having trouble competing in these tournaments. That's been going on for a long time. R1. At this moment, black can do that. So as Alex Weaver is asking, black can take away white's eyes with a move at A1, or is it it's R1, sorry. So that's this move. So yes, black can take away white's eye, but it's not really relevant. White actually has enough room to live already on the side. And if black tries to kill this white group, it's going to lose points. So it's going to lose points here. And it's not going to be... Actually, white can answer here. Sorry about that. So actually, sorry. It's alive. But black, for instance, if black played here, and then here, then it would be dead. So black can kill it, but it's not gaining anything. So white would just... In that case, white would start playing moves like this. And white's going to be alive. White doesn't have to worry about the life of this group anymore. But he's thinking of it. He's thinking of it at some time in the future. This move, there's a potential loss of a point or so that this move has to do with. He is leaving the option of taking away that eye in the corner at some point in the future. The scoring system in this game. That's Unai Corzo asking which scoring system. It is, the sponsors are Korean. So for all purposes, this is the same as the Japanese scoring system. So they're going to count the territory, and it's going to be 6.5 points komi. So the Japanese and the Korean systems are very similar. They're if you're the type of person who really goes into details with your study of the rules, you might find some slight differences, but it's nothing to worry about. Okay, yeah. Clamping there was also, it's sort of similar to the jump, but it doesn't allow black to crawl underneath. Yeah, so now that I see it, maybe this is the better move. Okay, so that's most of the big endgame moves. There's a lot of space in the middle of the board, which is not going to make any dramatic change in the size of the territories. But it's going to be really difficult to choose each move because this area in the center, like it's going to, they're going to fill it up with stones. And the difference between something I could sort of randomly play and what's going to be strictly the correct move, it could be just a point or so difference, the mistake and the correct move. So it's a very subtle difference that could happen in the center, but it's nothing that we've seen before. It's going to be an original shape because we don't get into the same position in the center of the board every time. So the end game in the center of the board is going to be relatively difficult to play technically. Shapes like the upper side, they're still big. Um, like the moves you want to play, like black would be playing a large knight's move there. Um, sorry, that was not, I didn't want to do that. The scoring system on this server is not so good anyway. So like moves like this that black might be playing later. It's relatively easy to choose moves like this, or you would be thinking about this move also if black is hoping to take away white's eye space at some point. And of course on the lower side, covering here is big. This move, it actually has to do with white's eyes. So black is thinking of taking away white's eyes, but white does have the connection in the center at this point. So if black takes away white's eye space, white can push here. It's not really an option for black to cut in the center because this is really dangerous for black group actually. So it's not a good idea yet. This is sort of forcing against black on the right. So if black leaves it, white can bump against black here and then play here. And that cuts black off. White has a number of ways that this works. Like white could start with this move and play here. And that works fairly well also. So black's going to answer this somehow. Probably bumping against white here. Or connecting like this. One of those two. This one, it allows a ko, so maybe bumping against. Ooh. So yeah, what the ko I was just talking about is if black plays here, that would be a mistake because white can play here and start a ko. Probably not advisable. So this avoids the ko and connects everything. Oh, okay. So this is a forcing move that is threatening to kill white on the lower side. Is K2 Sente for black now? K2, I don't think so. Even though black can take away white's eyes in the corner, white can make two eyes. So this stone on the first line here, my arrow doesn't show, the pointer doesn't show. The stone on the first line, it's helping white make eyes. And Alfred Ham is saying that black can't overcome the komi. I wouldn't be surprised if that's true. Okay, so we're getting some drama towards the end of the game. White did not make two eyes. And locally this is pretty bad for black on the right side of the board. It looks pretty bad. So what is black going to do about that? And okay, so this could be a collapse actually. We could be coming to the end of my live stream. Because if black plays here to try to kill the white group, white can push through here. And it's dangerous for the whole black thing. So like black can play here to connect up. But in a shape like this, white doesn't even have to play the ko. And it looks like white's just going to kill black. So this is really dangerous. What is it going to do? Okay, so black cuts. So black's still trying to attack the white group in the center. But it looks like white has saved those 3 stones now. Yeah, okay. So this is really bad for black. This is very bad. And like Alex, who was it? Alex Weavers was saying, um, it was probably bad for, maybe it was bad for black already, although I was having trouble counting the game. I think black lost a lot of points in the upper right corner. So he was maybe trying to make up some points. But this is really bad for black because those three white stones in the center of the board, they're saved already. They're already connected. Because if black cuts here, white can push through, threatening to capture the two black stones. And just about whatever white does, white can connect up here. So this would connect the white stones and it would kill the black group on the right also. Black doesn't have any way of making two eyes. So this would be a complete collapse for black. So black played there. And this is just very, very painful. So white played the cut here. Black is going to be forced to connect here. White will connect here. White's already saved those stones. And black has to answer with something on this side. White has Sente. And so what was black doing with all those moves? It didn't accomplish anything. White's actually... White's stone at f19 here. That's an endgame move. White's looking at to play... At some point, white's going to play here and reduce black's territory. So that's a significant endgame move. White's stone on the left side of the board. White can follow it up with playing something like this at some point. That's a big move white can follow up with. Capturing the three stones, it's probably not such a big deal. So maybe black can capture three white stones with something like that. But it's not enough to make up for all the losses black has incurred elsewhere on the board. So this whole thing is painful, and I wouldn't be surprised to see black resign at some point. So that was sort of sudden, but it was probably already happening in the upper right corner. It was already getting bit to be bad for black. Oh, so white cut here. White had a choice here of taking Sente by just simply connecting, and black would play here. When white cuts here, black can connect like this, and then white's going to return to the center probably by playing something like this. So white's just getting those extra points there, and it's going to return to the center. This is just extremely painful for black anyway. The center, the white-black's connection in the center isn't very good either. Oh, it was, on the whole, there were some stages of this game where I was thinking it looked like it was a good game for black. It's a pity. It doesn't look very good for black anymore. Yes. Kukulus 100 has said it. It's looking like white is taking the lead. And he's playing quickly. Black could be thinking of continuing to the end of the game. Hmm. Yeah. And yeah, after taking those three stones, black will have to add another stone to it. So I'm looking at a variation here where white does have to deal with the threat. If white plays on the top and black plays something like that, this is going to be dangerous for white. So maybe white plays here, something like this. After this, black probably has to add another stone, because if black plays here and white plays here, for instance, white probably has a better way to do it, but this way, for instance, this would capture all these black stones on this side. And this would capture them too. So looks like black is going to fall apart there. So yeah, that is the sequence they're playing. So after white does something like this, for instance, black would be adding one more stone there, and white would be getting to this side. So maybe this is what's going to happen. They're playing very quickly now. So I think we're coming to the end of the game in any case. Oh, white immediately attacked here. So if this works, it's going to be even better. Yes, that black rook doesn't have very many liberties, does it? So if black, let's see, let's make a variation. Black plays here, white extends. Black is already cut off. So if black cuts white off here. Okay, sad for white, but I mean sad for black. Black's already one move away from being an Atari. So that's it. If white bothers to play that move, white doesn't even need it. So that's one way. Probably a good point to resign, unfortunately for black. This is going to be pretty painful also. Black might be able to hold things together if black plays here. Unless white finds a more forceful move like this. This could work. If black answers it, something like this is a ladder, of course. So yeah, so this is also a move that could work. At this point in the game, white might benefit from just keeping things relatively simple because it already looks like it's a win for white. No points around the center, right. It's more likely white gets some points there. I think at this point we're just waiting for the resignation to show in the server. So yeah, this was, oh, they're still playing this game. Looks like this is going to be the last one to end. This one, it's paused. It's stopped. They've stopped showing the moves. I wouldn't be surprised if we find that it turns out that black has actually resigned. But it hasn't come up on, oh, yeah, it's come up on the server now. So white won by resignation. So that's the younger player, Zhao Chenyu, maybe not as famous as Yamashita, but he did win this game. So it's probably a big win for him. And well-played game. It was, there were stages of the game where I thought black was going to win. So something to do with the fight in the upper right there. It wasn't satisfying for black when the corner was taken away like this. It was just so bad. So that's it for today. I'm going to stop here. And there's more games. I'll probably try to make another live stream on Monday. And that will be the quarterfinal or something. I'm still like this tournament happened so suddenly. I was not prepared for it, so I'm sort of confused about exactly what stage it's going to be at. But it's clear that we have a lot of Korean players and probably a couple of Chinese players. So that's where we are here. Probably 6 Koreans with 2 Chinese at this point. So there's going to be a lot of exciting games, and as I was saying before, I'm sort of expecting Shin Jin-so to be prominent towards the end of the tournament. So we'll see how that turns out. Thanks for all your support and for being here. I understand it's really late for some of you people, but yeah. And Shannon Waters wants me to remember about Twitch. Yeah, it's something I haven't done before, so I'll have to figure it out. But thank you. See you next time, everyone, and goodbye.